do your own research, and enough with the thoughts and prayers. No more thoughts and prayers. Let's get some action behind that. Either one. I would take either one over this asshat clown that we have at 1600 right now.
This is Tiffanie Talks with Tiffanie Lanelle.
This is a special coverage episode of Tiffanie Talks featuring other guest contributors or co-hosts on other shows. Make sure after listening to this episode that you listen for the remainder of the conversation in other episodes as well.
Happy holidays and welcome to Black Headlines. I'm Alex Haynes.
And I'm Tiffanie Lanelle.
Well, hello.
Happy holidays to you.
Is it a happy holiday? Not for everyone, but there are people that are rejoicing in the land.
Well, yes, just not for us and most people who are paying attention to what's going on in the country.
Because there are some people that are us, but maybe not like us, that are rejoicing regardless. So, because ignorance is bliss.
It is, and I wish it wasn't. But it is.
But I'm go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. It just is.
I'm trying to get myself calibrated for the evening. The fact of the matter is, you can be ignorant if you want to. It is too late.
Yeah.
Finally. I mean, not really finally. It's too late.
And that's really the synopsis of
it is. And
this show.
It's too late. I think Erased by Design is meaningful, but on the ground, on the surface level, it's too late.
Is there anything that we can do?
No. And this is going to be difficult for people, Americans. There are people that are actively becoming un-Americans because the government is planning to take away their naturalized citizenship. So we're already there. It's too late. It is too late. And that is it's going to be very difficult. That's not just you trying to swallow a hard pill. It's not something that we're used to. There is always something that can fix it, or someone that can fix it, or something that can be done. We're conditioned to say, I'm going to keep calling. Let me speak to your manager. We've got Karen syndrome. Escalate. Yeah, Karen syndrome can't help you this time. Like, there's not a Karen. There's not a prayer. There's not a genie in the bottle that's coming to save you this time, because you didn't save you.
Because what did you vote for?
You didn't save you.
And what did you talk to other people to vote for? This is not really about your personal feeling at this time. And we've said so many things. We've done this over and over and over again, almost to the point of fatigue. But I'll say this because we gotta get started. But voting has consequences. Elections have consequences, and your choice not to vote, not to participate for whatever reason, the reason, right? I don't really want to talk about for people's reasoning, because it doesn't matter, because it's too late. So now that it's too late, the purpose and the goal here is to tell you what can be done, if anything can be done, and I guess the timeline of what can be done.
No, of when things will be done to you.
Oh, because
there's not a timeline of what can be done. I mean, you're probably gonna ask me that question again. People are gonna ask me that question tomorrow. People are gonna ask me that question next. It's too late.
It's too late.
It's just too late. It's too late. Full stop. And we can go. I said to you the last time that we did this just a couple of days ago, because if you haven't been having these conversations, you're just now finding out that it's too late, or you're just now believing that it's too late. All of those are personal problems that you're going to have to unpack on your own. There's there's not going to be funding for a doctor to help you process that. There won't be funding for you to, I mean, it's just essentially too late.
Funding.
And now your livelihood is based on your zip code. So,
and honestly, it has been for a while, but like in a worse way now.
I don't think people believe that.
Like, I believe that it has been for a while.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's actually it's been like that.
Yeah,
it was that way before you and I arrived here.
Yeah.
And so,
but
unfortunately,
by design. It's by design. You are being erased by your design. Your rights being based on and dependent on where you live is by design. Welcome to America.
It just is what it is. Right. Today, the House passed the final version of a bill. A bill that people people have been talking about this bill. It's had multiple names. And you may have not been paying attention because of the plethora of names that it had. There's one name that you couldn't miss, and it was its name before it was a bill, and that's Project 2025. And so for you,
before that it was the Mandate for Leadership.
Dual name for that one. That's my point. There's so many names for everything. That's also by design.
Right.
You can hear Project 2025, download it. It says Mandate for Leadership, and you're like, oh, I'm nobody's leader. This don't apply to me.
Oh my God, you just said that, and somebody probably really said that for real.
None of this, I don't know. So, as you know, not only are we living in Who Wants to Be an American, the reality show, but Donald Trump is set to sign this into law performatively with fireworks. Like, not only are you like the type of celebration that is going. I can't even formulate the right
so
phrase.
Ridiculous.
The type of pomp and circumstance that will surround the dismantling of rights, healthcare, education, the number of people that like pomp and circumstance, these people will be celebrating with their flavorless meats and probably hot dogs. And the fact that they dismantled your healthcare, that they took away your rights, the fact that you're going to be going into debt over simple medical expenses or further debt for your education. These things are by design. They were in the bill. And for one reason or another, you were convinced not to vote in your best interest. And the number of people that were convinced to do that, there's a spectrum. It's a wide spectrum of people that just decided not to vote in their own interest.
Do you think that people knew? What do you think is that disconnect between people voting for their interests and knowing what their interests are and knowing how to vote for their interests? I don't think people know how to vote for their interests because the system is intentionally ambiguous and difficult to understand so that you understand truly if you are voting in your interest or not.
They were voting against people and against the interests of people that they don't like. There's no other way to slice and dice that. So they were hoping that they were voting for things that would affect other people, them not included. And they neglected to look further into the details to see if they were included in that plan.
Right.
Or they believe blindly the people that they elected or the people that they've always supported or the people that they always voted for. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's why, like that. I mean, to me, and that's my thought. I don't think I don't think that for me, it doesn't go much further than that.
I think I'm asking because if we're going to talk about what's next and what we can do now and all of that, somewhere in there, we have to figure out the root of the issue as well, right? Like we have to know where is everybody going wrong? Because it can't just be, I don't want to vote for, it can be. And for some it was, I don't want to have a Black woman running this country. And also, there seemed to be a very large disconnect, and some of it intentional, between I got, a STEMI check from the president and the whole I needed to, vote for the businessman. Y'all found out he was a businessman and a failed one at that.
But how much of that reasoning do you believe? Like, I think it is a good possibility and maybe even easy to believe that people just got a stimulus check and that was their only barometer. And for many, maybe that was the case. Not enough to have thrown the numbers like they did, allegedly, for this man.
Is it allegedly anymore? I don't think it's allegedly anymore. He's admitted it. Like, he's admitted that Musk helped him win the election. Musk has admitted that he helped Trump win the election. I don't think that's alleged anymore. We read an article about what they did with the satellites and the electronic voting machines and how they rigged
I'm just
the
saying
election.
That he was certified the president, just like they said Joe was certified the president. So
okay,
that's what happened. That's what they told you. And still, whether he won or not, people voted for him.
But really, it went downhill from there, right? Like, it went downhill once Dems, independents, even moderates decided that they weren't going to fight the fact that we know the numbers just didn't make sense. They didn't add up.
There's no fight in them.
And that's my problem. And that's evident by what we just witnessed today.
And that's no longer my problem. I don't care because it's too late. I'm so beyond analysis, because what is that going to do?
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't for me, I could not spend the next 10 years wondering why they let this happen, why they didn't fight it, why they didn't contest it, why they continue to be people that have no backbone, that are like, here's the thing. If you're I use this analogy, and I'm going to use it because I use it in so many ways. If you believe something, like, and let me apply this to faith, because a lot of people, specifically in our community, where they're connected to some type of faith institution today or not, they're spiritual in nature. But if you, by the heart of your hearts, you confess with your mouth, you believe in your heart, and by the heart of heart, like you believe from the day you were born and you'll believe that you are serving one God till you die. You must confess and believe, and if you don't, you are going to hell. And there's a lot of people in this world going to hell, and you spend your life believing that. Even about people that don't believe the same thing, they're never affected by it. And I don't think that people that live in those bubbles understand that. The people that you are saying these people are doing all of this and God's gonna get them, they don't believe in that. They don't even believe in, and you're comfortable with, like I was saying, they don't have to believe it, don't mean it don't have. Like, you must understand that fear that's motivating you is not motivating them.
Is it? Fear is a interesting tool, right? Like, I don't know that, I feel like it's been managed and used, unfortunately, successfully on the conservative side. And even after the bill passed today, we kept hearing, the Dems messaging and how do they do this and how do they message this after it's passed to their constituents and everything else. And I'm like,
I don't care about your messaging anymore. Your terrible messaging is part of the reason we've gotten here. I said to someone a few weeks ago that the Dems did release a response to Project 2025, and they said, when? What was it called? And I said, you just proved my point. They released a response a day late and $1 short, several dollars short, because Project 2025 was released in 2023. They didn't even do anything about it until it went viral last year. That's a problem.
I got to let you unpack that because I don't care. It's too late.
I know it's too late. And I know it just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating that it's too late because it didn't have to be too late. And if you're just joining, we're saying it's too late. It's too late to make a course correction about the bill that just passed today. I guess we should start there. Some people still don't know that it passed. There is one of those freaking gnats. If you are in the South, you are dealing with the gnats just like the rest of us. So excuse me waving it. It's just so annoying. But yeah, we should probably start with that. So if you don't know, I guess I'll start with Congress has been going back and forth about a large congressional bill that will essentially provide tax cuts to the wealthy and cut a lot of safety net services and programs for middle to lower class individuals in this country. It is a very, very dangerous bill, and they've been going back and forth. It met with some opposition in the Senate, but it passed the Senate on, what was that, Tuesday, I think. And then there were over 270 amendments, multiple amendments from different congressional people. So they went back and forth between the House and the Senate. The House, it landed in the House after the Senate passed it on Tuesday, and they took a vote after Representative Hakeem Jeffries broke a record this afternoon. Speaker Mike Johnson got up and gave his own well speech, and then they started the vote, upon which they passed the big, beautiful bill, 218 to 214, with only two conservatives joining all Republicans, all 212 Democrats, and I believe the independents are included in that 212 as well, who tend to caucus. They did that 218 to 214 vote with the bill passing. So it is not a good day. No. Now here's the thing. Some of this will not take effect until 2026, after midterm elections, because they do not want the worst of these things to actually show up and be hitting everyone's pockets before some of these folks have to run for re-election. They want to be able to use their effective messaging, because unfortunately their propaganda, disinformation, and misinformation has been highly effective. They want to be able to chug that same machine and get reelected in some of these locations. And then it'll really start to hit our pockets. It'll start to really hit our communities. We'll see more impacts on different things. Some of it will take effect this year. Some of it we're already living under, because some of the cuts and tax things that we're under now are from Trump's first administration. So it's just a continuation. But some of it won't take effect until 2026. That's the high level summary.
Yeah, I mean, I think people hear bill, right? And I think you should know that how the bill works, the technicalities of the bill. It's also too late for us to be explaining it once a bill like this passes. And there's been, let me say this. There have been a number of detrimental
That's not a word, but it sounded like one of those pharmaceutical commercials. There have been a number of detrimental bills that have been passed in the United States, specifically by this Congress, over the years. So I'm not saying like this. I say it's too late for you to do anything about what's in this bill that has lasting ramifications. It's going to last a long time. The effects for this bill are going to last for decades.
Right.
That's the translation. Decades, generations. It's a periodically long time. And that is a reference for those of you that understand that reference. This is going to impact you. And what else? I mean, and I get it, right? I get for a certain subset of people, and we can talk to millennials. We understand that plight. What hasn't been a disaster?
Well,
what has not been a disaster? And we'll start with 9/11, because from that point where the country entered war, we've been in war since the year 2001. So compound that with the fact that we have somewhat of a shoddy understanding of what was going on in the world, because there were Cold Wars and things that were happening when we were born. The textbooks call Russia 7 different things, right? So there's no telling, just the fundamental understanding, unless you've gone and got this research, done that research and got this information on your own. World politics are a little confusing to you. And you see what I'm saying? So there's not really a easy way to say that if you haven't been paying attention, you just got screwed. And the best thing that you can do is pay attention now to see how you can navigate the new mess that you're in. And we're in a mess. This law is nasty. It targets some nasty things. And all in all, I think one of the most important things that you can find out now is that if you live in one of the and it's going to affect a lot of people in different ways. But one thing, a myth that we should bust right now, everyone's not going to be affected the same way. Also by design. You're on mute.
Wow. Thank you. You also said in the beginning, your rights now depend on your zip code, right? And that is such an important statement because, my response was, and truthfully, it has for some time, but what this bill does is really bridge the gap that has been being ruined, for lack of a better word, and grown even more over the last few years and generations. Honestly, bit by bit, I said while we were preparing for the show, they have been breaking us down and breaking our rights down bit by bit, little by little, kind of nipping at things one by one over time. What this does is almost accelerate some of the things that they have been trying to do. So it accelerates the removing people off of safety net programs that they need, right? This whole notion that, able-bodied people are just taking advantage of the system. Sure, people take advantage of systems all the time. Look at the wealthy. Y'all definitely take advantage of a lot of the systems that are intended to break us. But I
have something to say, but I'm gonna let you finish.
Go ahead.
Because I want you to finish your thought. Because we keep saying it's by design, and I want to give some examples.
Okay, go right ahead.
So, one of the things that they said over and over was, we are, for about 4 months, if you ask these people that worked on this bill, they said there are absolutely no cuts to Medicaid. As you started to do the numbers, and it's not hard to do the numbers or the math. All you have to do is look at the programs that they have targeted, see how much funding has been allocated, and see what they are doing with that funding.
look at those programs and see who benefits by those programs. When you look at those programs, you see who benefits by those programs. You see that they cut those programs. They come back and tell you we didn't cut Medicaid, but we did cut this program, a program that means nothing to them, or a program that they've identified as a good target market that didn't vote for them or didn't support them. Now they are playing politics with your life, and that's part of why you can hear for decades you'll hear Democrats specifically say that Republicans really obstruct and they don't really know how to legislate. So they really just cry, complain. They spark cultural wars, and they've done this really since Reagan. Democrats have their own issues, but this is I'm giving you this example because it's important that you understand how you are characterized in the grand scheme of things and how you are actually discussed in Washington. There's discussions happening about you all the time, and that's what you should be thinking about when you think about who you're voting for or who you want to support. They've used this trope over and over that we're not cutting Medicaid, we're not going to cut any Medicare. Then they cut the programs that affect these people. They come back when you address that and say, well, we've only cut waste, fraud, and abuse. That is intentionally calling you waste, intentionally insinuating that you are committing fraud, or there's probably something amiss with these people that are on this program committing fraud. We do have data that suggests that there are fraudulent people that are in all programs. It's a large country, large programs, but by no means is it the masses of people. A lot of what we have in this country is called the working poor. We have a demographic of people that are robbing, they can't even rob Peter because they don't know Peter. So they can't pay Paul, and they're just working multiple jobs. These people are also being subsidized by programs that help them, from SNAP, the new name for food stamps, Medicaid, that is helping people with their medication, and for one reason or another. And so a number of people that are on Medicaid are already working so what is happening is people that are representing you, and these could be people that you didn't vote for, maybe because you didn't vote. But these people are making decisions on your behalf with this information and using tropes to get their message across. They're getting their message across to people that hate you. And I say hate like I don't say it lightly. The only way that people could be happy about taking things away from people is that people that you should have voted for, that represent you, have convinced them that they should hate you for one reason or the other, by telling them that you're not working, by telling them that their tax money is going to your health care or to feed your children. And I know that you guys aren't paying attention to this, because during the Biden administration last year, and we're talking this last summer, while there was an election going on, these same people that had no power, 14 states voted to not feed children during the summer months. 14 states, those same states had full participation in this bill to take all of these things away. And these are facts that you can just find on your own. So it's easy to use these tropes. They use these tropes because that's the way that if they can divide, if you can other somebody, and we talk about this all the time, if you can other somebody and get people to feel like they are other, not a human. They do this with everything. They do it from the trans issues. They do it gay issues. They do it black issues. They do it like we were just off of these same people were telling you that Haitians were eating cats and dogs. We're not 6 months away from that. And these are the same people that are now running the country. So there's no way, just based on how they legislate, that you could think they're doing this in good faith or that they had bad information. It's just kind of where we are. And it bothers me. But what we do with those tropes, unfortunately, and now I have to talk to us, our own community, because That's really our focal point. Like we perpetuate those same thoughts. Well, them people, if they ain't working, I'm working. They shouldn't have. Ain't nobody should have health care. I ain't got it. Okay. All right. This comes from families. It comes from pulpits, and none of this is new. And that complacent, like, I'm sorry, that rhetoric and that dialogue that happens in these spaces conditions people to be apathetic, really, to their own needs and to their own livelihoods and to their own future. And we find ourselves in this place now that it's just too late. And it's too late. My thoughts.
I think that you said a mouthful and amen and ashe, because no disagreement here from me. And you got to the they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. And I think I had put that in like the recesses of my mind, because I almost forgot about that. Like, these are terrible, terrible people.
These are literally terrible humans.
And like, how are you that terrible of a human being that you would get on a national stage, really international, because the world is watching, and say something about a group of people, have no facts to back it up, you completely made up the story, and you had people accusing a whole group of people of eating animals. And y'all voted for this man.
Double down on it. And where you should be concerned is that in the masses, they didn't come out. There were none of them in mass. That this was an attack on humanity. It was a blatant attack on humanity. And no one, they doubled down, started to say that they were going to go and do some investigations. And they did this to literally other these people in your own zeitgeist, for you to just start to believe, well, I heard, and now you start to hear it. You start to hear people say it in passing. People start to say it. It becomes part of regular dialogue, and it becomes normalized. And it's the same thing that happened with the Orange Man. Everything that he does became normalized, and it's partially because we have an obsession with that.
What is that about?
It's nasty.
I know we have to actually start going through this heinous, horrendous bill. But we had to start with what actually just happened. So the first section, first of all, if you have not looked at the bill, you haven't opened the bill. The bill is over 1,000 pages. Okay. It did not start that big. Well, it's always been big. Certain folks asked Speaker Johnson to break this bill up into 2 packages. He refused to do it. And so it became the big, beautiful bill. In this big, beautiful bill that is over 1,000,
because he knew that it would not pass.
It would not
Neither
pass
one of them
if he broke it into 2 separate. That just was not going to happen. It wasn't going to work. They narrowly passed it this time. The only reason this bill passed is because they have a slight majority in the House. And so it passed 218 to 214, but it has different sections. When I looked at the, we'll say, table of contents, for lack of a better word, there was only one section that actually included enhancements, and that was for the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense gets a lot of enhancements. The Department of Defense already has one of the largest budgets in our entire federal government. And so the rest of it was repeal this, rescind this, take this away, we're cutting this, we're going to increase this for the wealthy. Now, does it say we're increasing this for the wealthy? No, not necessarily. Of course not. What it says is
we're
going to make this a tax advantage account But that tax advantage account is something that wealthier people in this country usually use, not something that lower income families are able to contribute to, like a 529 plan. That's not how that works. So essentially, they are taking the safety net programs that millions of people rely on, and not just poor people. I don't know why people just think poor people are on safety net programs. That's not how that works. People use Medicaid and Medicare for different reasons, and so millions of Americans use some of these safety net programs. Millions of Americans will be impacted. Millions of Americans use rural hospitals and different clinics and things. Any of those that get federal funding is going to be cut. So, for example, SNAP and food access, those work requirements have now been adjusted. And if you live in a red state, your SNAP and food benefit or EBT, your work requirements for unemployment or anything like that. For example, in Georgia, you have to apply to a certain number of jobs and you have to apply through the state website. You have to, submit the records. You have to meet with someone in a center. They took that away during the pandemic for a little bit, but there are certain requirements that you have to meet in order to get unemployment, SNAP, food stamps, some of these social safety net programs. Those work requirements have changed.
For the people in the back that are like, okay, I'm hearing you. I've heard a little bit about a bill that I should be paying attention to, but I don't really, I voted one time, haven't done it in a while. And I don't remember hearing anything about red states and blue states and it's in school. So what are you talking about? Like I thought the 50 states were the 50 states. What are you talking about?
They would not have taught it as red states and blue states because they don't really teach. And you said this to me when we on our show the other night, that civics was an old and dated word, and it really hurt my heart a little bit. But I do understand that because they aren't teaching civics in schools anymore. But when you learn civics, you learn that there are red states and blue states and how those states govern themselves and how they care or do not care for their citizens and the needs of their citizens matters, unfortunately. So it goes right along with what you said at the beginning. Your rights largely depend on your zip code now. They're going to matter even more after some of these things in this bill take effect, including.
So for someone that says, how do I know what kind of state I live in?
Well, that's a bit of a larger question, but the easiest.
But it's an important question, and I ask it because
it is.
That's what we're dealing with right now. What we are dealing with is people playing off of ignorance and playing off of technicality and playing off of things. So you believe that you moved or you need, or let me say, not even about the people that moved, because you've taken steps that most people haven't taken. But for the people that have never moved, and it's like, why would I need to move? It's just cheaper here. Everywhere I look is too expensive. Why is it cheaper? Why there are certain red states that don't have state taxes? Why don't they have state taxes? What are you lacking without state taxes? You know what you can do if you drive around the United States? You can tell what states have state taxes when you enter their state on the road, on the highway. It's very evident. Well, not the highway. Highways are taken care of by the federal government. Interstates. Interstates, because of course federation, that's important, but your highways, these would be your Georgia road. Georgia has state taxes, so I'm not singling them out, but if you live in a state that does not have state taxes, because the people who have homes in those states, their property taxes are sky high, and they talk about that shit all the time. They are the ones that are vocal about it. But you may be disillusioned to think that property taxes are sky high everywhere, because that's how they legislate in your state. That's the messaging that you hear. You hear your people talk about every state is not like that, right? But in states that may be paying more taxes, what services are available for the people in those states?
Well, we could just compare the two states that we live in, because, you've heard me say many, many, many times, Georgia has state reserves of billions. There are $16 billion in the Georgia state reserves. And yet and still our legislature, our governor refuses to fully expand Medicaid in this state. We have had multiple hospitals close in urban and rural areas over the last decade. It is a big problem here.
What I'd like to do is
have $16 billion in state reserves. And to answer your question before you go to your next point, the easiest way is to just Google. That's the easiest way to find out if you live in a red state or a blue state. I live in Kentucky. Now getting into the specifics of that, it's a little bit more difficult because right now Kentucky has a Democratic governor, but their legislature, I don't believe, has a Democratic majority. So you can get into the weeds there, but the easiest way is to just Google, this is my state. Do I live in a red or blue state? Or purple?
You want to do that because it's important that you know what type of information you're seeing. When you turn on the TV or the hell with the TV, you open your apps and you have these ads that are targeted and you're like, oh, I hate the political season because of X. We all hate political ads. I think that's a nationwide thing, but the types of ads that you see are based on where you live. If they are full of fear, if they are full of misogyny, racism, bigotry, it's likely that you live in a red state.
More than likely, yes.
More than likely. And you're going to see some of that, but the xenophobia, you see that more in blue states because they're like, oh, well, we work hard and these people are here. That othering thing comes back up, right? Anytime somebody is trying to other people, they are trying to get you to take the human factor away from who they are. Once you take the human factor away from people, you take that human factor out of the equation, you're okay with anything that happens to those people.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are. I can be honest about that. I can take the humanity factor out of people that are in the KKK. I don't. But if I did, I don't. I want to be very clear about that. I don't.
Okay.
Don't give a. But you see where I'm going here. So it's very easy to get to that point to where you start to take the humanity out of it. When you do that, it's very easy for people to say, okay, you know what? I agree. I kind of don't like that either. I kind of don't like, I kind of know why. And it's easier to do it when you are ignorant about a people group. So the more ignorant you are around somebody, the easier you are swayed to believe that whatever you heard about those people is true. And that is by design. That weapon is used against you in everything. Your government uses it. Your church uses it. Your family has used it. We don't fool with those type of people because of X. These people you don't even know, but you've put characteristics on them because of fear. And I digress because we could spend all day there. We should talk about, you talked about the Medicaid cuts.
Yeah.
People are losing.
Medicare will have a 4% across the board cut beginning in 2026. So if you just joined us, if you just joined us at the top of this, we said that some of these cuts, some of these impacts and changes won't take effect until 2026 because they want to make sure that some of these folks get reelected into their offices before some of the hardest hitting things hit communities and their constituents that will be voting for them. And so with all of the No Kings protests and things going on, they were intentional about putting language in this bill so that some of these did not take effect until 2026 after midterms or right before, so that you still won't be able to really see the impacts, the hardest hitting impacts before you have to go into the voting booth and vote them back in.
Certainly, I think one thing that I want to insert here because it's all I'm going to talk about the Congress and how feckless they are a lot. But I will tell you that these people, despite what they do in these bills, their health care always continues.
And it's good health care. They get really, really, really good health care.
Their health care always continues.
Taxpayers pay for.
They've dismantled the government, but in the moments that they do that and the government shuts down, and people that work in the government, national parks, like you say, federal government, and they try to make you believe that everybody, that's people in DC. People that work for the federal government run your local Social Security office. These are the type of people that are affected. So when your grandmother's Social Security check didn't come, or they said she's not eligible, or they said she's dead, then they said you can't come in here without an appointment. I just took my grandmother to the Social Security office in a red state. I got there. There were armed guards. I had to go through a metal detector to get into the Social Security office because of the types of things that they've done. There were two people working. So when they say that they're sending people in because there's waste, fraud, and abuse, that's really based on them wanting to delay you getting money that's due you. Right. They like to use the word entitlement.
Right.
There's nothing entitled about getting money that you put into a system because of good faith that it would be there for you when it was time for you to retire. That's not a damn entitlement.
No,
it's just not.
To be a right. It shouldn't even be a privilege. It's supposed to be a right. We have a right to all of the things that are guaranteed us by the Constitution. But clearly, the Constitution has just been thrown right out the window because the amount of things that are being reconsidered in the Constitution are just outrageous. But yes, there will be a 4.4% across the board cut in Medicare. And the Congressional Business Office is estimating 10.9 million more uninsured by 2034. Go ahead with your what you were about to say, and then I want to highlight something.
Well, I was just with those cuts. I mean, that is impacting pregnant people, postpartum, disabled, children. There's a number of people that are impacted by these cuts, right? So you've got Medicare, you've got Medicaid, and then the types of people, like, again, they just say, well, no, we're only cutting people that are committing fraud. We're only cutting where we deem that it's wasteful. Just like they're saying just like they said they were only coming for criminals. And look, all of you that voted for Donald Trump, that ain't happening. It didn't happen like that, right? That's crazy. And another thing that they did in this bill was take off guardrails. So these are the same people that were hollering about how Biden was spending too much money.
But you just increase money. Part of the bill, and I was reading this before, part of the bill is an increase in money to feral swine eradication. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need money to go to that or the other kind of randomly selected things that are in the agricultural section of this very large bill. But it's millions of dollars. And so as I was reading that section and other sections like it, I couldn't help but think to myself, it seems like this is mighty convenient for, I don't know, maybe corporate farms to get money and increases in the corporation that is our meat industry, our dairy industry, poultry farms. Corporate farms. This seems like a mighty convenient legal way to get money and to infuse these corporations with taxpayer money from corporate contracts. That's what it kind of seems like to me. So I don't know. Maybe call me a conspiracy theorist, but that's what it seems like.
I think not. I just think that there are a number of things that, and honestly, we don't have to explore this today, but conservatism is exactly what it sounds like. Right. So, but this is not conservatism. So you are boasting as a conservative, but you're bloating everything. You lied about your math, but that's not a surprise because you lie about everything. Like everything is a lie. So when everything is a lie, now you're forcing people to pick and choose which ones they're going to talk about, which ones they're going to get frustrated about, which ones they're going to get mad about, which ones they even know about. That's why you just lie. They lie. They get louder with their lies. You check them with their lie and they want to come arrest you. They're not arresting you because they think you did something wrong. They want you to prove that you didn't. So they want you to waste your time, waste your resources. And this is the type of mental oppression, the mental gymnastics that this country has always put Black people through. So part of this right now, we're having this discussion right now for Black people that are unaware, asleep, and just choosing not to participate. And I get it. You're like, I go through these mental gymnastics all the time. I don't know what the fuck's going to be different. I didn't mean to drop that F-bomb, but it is what it is. It's just different. It's just, but for people that came here with a different, I was talking to a lady yesterday, and it's important that we have these conversations because some of you, whether you watch this live, you watch this later, you're listening to it. I was harping on this in the last election because part of the generalization, and I can break this down, Tiffanie, so often and over and over and over, how this has transpired over the years, through the years. What has happened once they other you, because that is by design. You have Black and white in this country. So you fall into these two groups, Black and white. So now when you have immigration, you have people coming in, they come in with their culture, their heritage. They have no idea. They've heard about America. They've heard about its freedoms. They've heard what it can do for them, how they are optimistic. They come in, they try to get a part of the system, and they don't even realize that they've fallen into this party system or into this construct that they are going to have to identify as one thing or another. Now, there's an underlying system there that is working overtime, that works in this country, white supremacy, that you will be able to see, whether you speak the language or not, which people have privilege and which people don't, which people are problems, which people are not. So you have people that come in with this type of skin, and they come in here and they cling to their culture, and they tell their young, you are not Black American. Now, their kids go and they get into the system, and the kids realize that they, in fact, are now Black Americans or understood to be Black people. Once they get into the system, they have to go back and tell their parents over time, because they're like, no, this is the way that we're being perceived. But because you come in here, you see what's happened. You don't know the history, so you just believe it, and you believe that you have to align with these people. They've kind of bamboozled you. There's a whole bait and switch there. And so,
because our propaganda goes out into the world just like it comes into our homes, our American homes. It goes out and it comes in.
So you get here, and now you believe the trope that Black people are lazy. You believe the trope or the narrative that Black Americans are not, they're lazy, they are not motivated, that they're ghetto. All these labels that come, and I say this all the time. Black people were not considered lazy in this country until we stopped working for free. And then suddenly the people that did everything in this country, built everything in this country, every structure, every edifice, every process, most inventions, like these people didn't know how to do anything. We were raising their children, tilling their farms, making their food. So suddenly we are lazy and don't know how to do anything. You come in here and you don't understand the history, and you get played, and that's what happens. Even the slavery argument. We go through this, and I'm not going to go there. But the fact of that is the way that this country was designed and set up. In the Constitution, there's a 3/5 compromise that said all other persons, that meant Black people, that we were property. So that was nullified by the 14th Amendment, but this country reveres the Constitution like it is a holy document. other countries that have blemishes like this in their documents, they've rewritten these documents. There's a reason this country doesn't do that. But once that freedom was pronounced to these Black individuals, this country refunded those slave owners for that property.
Us.
That was what began the wealth gap. These people, when you hear rich off of the backs of Blacks, this country gave refunds, the initial tax refunds to these slave owners and attempted to send us back. Congress at that time said no. We're now dealing with Congress again saying no. To that, I just
to Black, to brown. And not respectfully. I dissent. Not respectfully.
I was not going to be able to pull myself back in, but we can move on from that. Because I'm getting hot, because this is the design. It's the design that we have to live and work within. And if we're not having these conversations,
No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we do not. Well, we do not have to do that. That I for lack of a better way to say it, I rebuke that. We do not have to do this.
You're
we
right.
Have been taught
but we do.
And conditioned.
You're right.
That we have to abide by the rules. We have to play within all of the rules that have been given to us. We have to buy into the systems that we have been conditioned that we have to live within, and we have to just accept it and go along to get along. No, we do not. We have the power. And I said this the other night in our other show. This is a democratic republic country. We vote. And yes, I know everybody doesn't want to vote.
Those words again.
I get it. Because they're supposed to mean something. Like a democratic republic is supposed to mean something. It is supposed to mean when we go into the voting booth,
I couldn't agree more.
Whatever we are putting on there has power. Now, when it doesn't have power is when we are supposed to show up. When it doesn't have power, when it stops having power, like it clearly has now, that is when we show up in the streets. That's when we show up in our Capitol buildings in our states. That's when we're showing up in our commissioner's offices. And stop blaming the president for everything. The president does not have that much power. We talked the other night about the 3 articles in the Constitution, Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. The legislative, the executive, which is the president, legislative is Congress, and the judicial branch, that's the Supreme Court, the federal circuit courts. When we have levels to this, local, state, federal, when the president is not responsible for the pothole that been down your street for 50 years. That is not who is responsible for that. That might be your commissioner. That might be your state Department of Transportation. But guess who is also giving some funding probably to your state Department of Transportation? The federal government. Guess who has the power of the purse in our federal government? Congress. So when Alex is saying Congress is once again saying no, it is because they have the power of the purse and they're not using it. They keep doing these well speeches. I don't care about your well speech. I don't care about you breaking a congressional record for standing in the well for the longest time. They still came behind you. Mike Johnson talked about him like a dog. As soon as Hakeem Jeffries sat down, he got up there, talked about him as his colleague, said, I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it cute and keep it short, essentially. And then they went right ahead with the vote to cut your SNAP, to cut your Medicaid, to cut your Medicare, to cut the funding to your rural community hospital, to make sure that you have to do more in order to get these safety net benefits. Never mind the fact that some people who have mental and invisible disabilities who cannot keep a regular job because it is a disability, they use these safety net programs to live and to work on. So no, I don't care about your well speeches. I don't care about you breaking a record and staying up all night from 4:30 in the morning, or what time did Cory Booker start? 1 a.m. or whatever. I don't care. It is thank you. And also at this point, it's performative. And like you have been saying for the better part of the beginning of the show, it's too late. It's too late. I don't even care about you trying to bring about impeachment articles. It's not doing anything. So I think that it's too late for the mouthpiece of this, but it's also too late for us to continue thinking that this is a system we have to live in. We don't. We have the power. Okay? I'm not saying everybody stop paying your taxes, but we have the power.
I find myself frustrated is that we have the power, but it's often drowned out by opportunism and the lack of information.
Yep.
And I am a champion of you going places, doing things, and being in spaces that give you information.
Right.
If you are connected to whatever your community groups are, and they're not giving you information, it's the same old, same old. I understand. I get it. One of the main points that I stood on, mostly especially when I was doing radio in Atlanta, is that these communities are not voting because these local community leaders are taking advantage of these neighborhoods. And I was watching it. I'm watching it. And I can still go back down there and tell you who was running this community, what they did or did not do.
Yes.
And for those of you in communities where you've been there 30 years and you've seen little change.
Right.
The problem is who is helping run that community. The lack of resource. Sure, there's a lack of resources. Things funnel into our areas sometimes late, sometimes less. But if you don't have an advocate, part of the reason that it's continued for 30 years is because your representation was silent about it.
Yep.
Your representation was being paid off not to say or not to do anything.
And that's local, and state, and federal.
I have a major problem with that. I have such a big problem with that. You cannot tell me, and I think this is wide ranging. I see it in everything. You go into these communities that are literally depending on information. People are busy. That's part of the reason that people don't vote in every election. They're busy. And so if you live in a place where the information is not readily available and you have to go seek that information out, those people are not going to do it because they may be the working poor. They may have 2 jobs, 2 kids, and no more time in the day to sit down and look up every single person that's representing them.
Right.
So your local leaders in those communities, or lack thereof, that's where that accountability has to start.
Yeah.
I'm hard on faith institutions because if you sit up here and talk about the blessing, and or whatever else, and not what's happening with your people, not what's happening in their community, not who is literally being elected to dismantle things and programs that help them move forward and stay above water,
right?
Closed.
Immediately.
Closed.
Immediately. I don't want to hit that yet because we're going to talk about the complicity later in the show. This is a special coverage episode of Tiffanie Talks featuring other guest contributors or co-hosts on other shows. Make sure after listening to this episode that you listen for the remainder of the conversation in other episodes as well.
This is Tiffanie Talks with Tiffanie Lanelle.